Have you ever found yourself wondering, what happens when your passion just doesn't seem to fit neatly into a traditional career path?
Or how you even begin to navigate this world just overflowing with information to find your actual calling.
Exactly. Today, we're taking a deep dive into precisely these questions. We're guided by the really remarkable journey of a Fudan University history graduate.
Yeah, we've got this fascinating account from her, tracing her choices all the way from those intense high school days right up to her current career. She's in the travel industry now.
Right. And our mission here is to kind of pull out the key insights on, career navigation, the surprising value you can get from seemingly impractical majors.
And also the absolutely critical role of proactively gathering information to shape your own path. It's
Yeah.
really central to her story.
It really is. It's a story that just beautifully illustrates how even choices made maybe under pressure or with not much info can turn into something really meaningful.
Absolutely, especially when you add in that commitment to just continuous learning and being adaptable. You really see that play out for her.
I totally agree. So let's set the scene. Back in high school, she paints this picture of almost, well, unbelievable focus.
Yeah.
She described this routine where between afternoon classes and evening self-study, she'd grab some bread instead of proper dinner,
Wow.
find a quiet spot in the school corridor, and manage to complete an entire English paper, everything but the listening part in that tiny window.
That's intense. The efficiency, the pressure must have been immense.
Oh, huge. And she even reflected later, that if she could have kept up that kind of focus, her career achievements today might be, well, much higher.
But what's really striking about that time is her mindset, isn't it? She was completely locked into the immediate task, finishing the paper, understanding mistakes.
Right, not thinking about the bigger picture.
No, the future exams, university, career, it just wasn't really on her radar then, which is such a contrast to her current professional goals, thinking about promotions, 5-year plans.
That's a great point. It gives this almost paradoxical insight, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That when your focus is super narrow on that small immediate thing,
Yeah.
the mental pressure can actually feel less, even when you're incredibly busy. Like the intensity itself blocks out the wider anxieties.
That is a fascinating observation. Makes you wonder if we lose some of that as our focus broadens later.
Possibly. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk university selection. This is where her path really started to take some interesting turns.
Okay.
So she's a liberal arts student from Heilongjiang province, applying to Fudan University, top school in Shanghai. Her choices were pretty limited.
How limited?
Only 6 majors available for her cohort: history, journalism, economics, law, foreign language, and sociology.
And economics and law, I bet they were super competitive.
Exactly. Needed scores just a few points higher than hers.
Yeah.
So very competitive.
And this is where, naturally, parents step in with their opinions, right?
Right. Her parents, especially, they really wanted her to go for economics or law. They just believed those offered much better job prospects.
Which makes sense from their perspective, coming from engineering and logistics management backgrounds.
Yeah, they weren't familiar with pure liberal arts majors, didn't really get what job options might exist. Their advice was, well-intentioned, but shaped by their own world.
So history ended up being, what did she call it?
Yeah, basically a safety net option, just to get into Fudan. It's almost hard to believe, but when she got the history admission, her father actually suggested she retake the Gaokao.
Retake the college entrance exam because of the major.
Yes, he was convinced history offered almost 0 job opportunities.
Wow. But what about her? What was she thinking?
Her criteria were incredibly simple. Fudan, good school, Shanghai, far from home.
No.
That was pretty much it.
So not a deep passion for history driving the choice at that point?
Not at all. She openly admits she had no strong concept of the major itself. It was about the place, the prestige, the distance, more than the subject.
And that simple motivation, looking back, led her to a pretty important realization later on, didn't it?
It really did. She realized that your major has a strong, often direct link to your first job, especially right out of university.
Which explains why she ended up pursuing a dual degree in accounting later, because of her parents' concern.
Exactly. That parental concern was still there. Her initial thinking was, a practical major is crucial if your university isn't, top tier.
But her view shifted on that.
Yeah, she came to believe that for a prestigious university like Fudan, there's this halo effect. It can compensate for a less practical major, because employers value the learning ability, the caliber of the graduate from that kind of institution.
That makes sense. The university brain carries weight.
Definitely. And here's something really thought-provoking she reflected on later.
What's that?
She now thinks her interest in history. She could have easily pursued that just through reading, discussions, outside of a formal major.
Wow. That really challenges the whole idea that your passion has to be your major, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It suggests, the formal academic route isn't the only way, maybe not even the best way sometimes, to engage with something you love, especially if you're also thinking about practical career stuff.
Yeah, that's a big one to chew on for anyone picking a major.
So despite those initial, maybe reservations or lack of passion for the major itself, she described her 4 years at Fudan as the happiest.
Sounds like a welcome change after intense high school.
Totally. She found it relatively low pressure compared to post-graduation life. Classes were straightforward, and she had tons of time for travel during holidays. Sounds pretty good, actually.
And that sense of ease, was it partly the department's style? She mentioned something about a Zen-like approach.
Yes, exactly. She contrasted the history department sharply with, say, economics or management, which had dedicated career planning mentors and resources.
Right.
Fudan, she explained, has this traditional philosophy.
He.
The use of the useless is great use. That's profound.
It really is. And in practice, it meant they didn't push direct career planning super hard. So for her, that meant less pressure if you weren't constantly obsessing about job prospects. It was more about learning for its own sake.
A different kind of university experience. And the curriculum itself, you said it was broad.
Incredibly broad and deep, yeah. Undergraduate history covered general history, ancient Chinese, to modern, Western history, historiography, even party history.
Okay, the standard stuff.
But then also these really cool electives. Late King economic history, Western civilization, reading historical classics, Old Testament studies.
Old Testament. Interesting.
Yeah. Cultural history, folklore, loads of interesting stuff. But she stressed, while fascinating for someone into history, these didn't directly map onto, immediate job skills for after graduation.
So the vocational link wasn't obvious.
And not directly, no.
But this is where we get to the real, maybe hidden value of that major, right? Her big insight. Exactly. This is where it gets really interesting. She said, quite profoundly, studying history makes people wise.
Wise? How so?
It helps you understand organizational structures, maybe even anticipate future developments, because you can draw parallels with historical events, stories, principles.
Okay, seeing patterns across time.
Right. But here's the core idea she really nailed. What every major truly teaches isn't just the specific professional knowledge,
but a professional analytical method. That's the key phrase she used.
Yes. And for history, that method is critical analysis. It's not just memorizing dates and names.
It's about learning not to just accept things at face value.
Exactly. To question everything, not easily believe what you're told, and crucially, to form your own well-reasoned thoughts and conclusions.
That is a powerful reframing. It's not just what you learn, but how you learn to think. A transferable skill.
Absolutely. But even with that strong analytical foundation, the job hunt wasn't exactly a walk in the park.
No, even from Fudan.
No, she initially struggled. She'd done an internship in finance at a foreign company, realized she had zero interest in it.
Okay.
Another internship at a publishing house, but they just didn't have any open positions when she graduated.
Oh, bad timing.
Yeah. So she didn't actually land her first job until July after graduation, which, can feel late when your classmates have already started working.
Definitely stressful. So how did she get her foot in the door?
Her first break came through a classmate, actually. Helped her get a role at a small internet e-commerce platform.
Oh, interesting. What kind of role?
It was labeled user experience. And crucially, this company, which has since pivoted into foreign trade, was less hung up on specific qualifications for new grads.
So a bit more flexible, which was what she needed.
Exactly. It was a lifeline. And she really credits two key mentor figures there for shaping her early development.
Oh, yeah. Who were they?
The boss, who was Korean and a Stanford grad, and her direct supervisor, who was a Gaokao University finance grad. She said they were really influential.
Having good mentors early on is huge.
Totally. And it was in this small company setting that she picked up really foundational skills.
Like what?
Strong operations capabilities, understanding how things actually run, and data analysis skills.
Practical stuff.
Very practical. And she really emphasized that being in a small company let her see the entire workflow, top to bottom.
Right. You wear more hats.
Exactly. She compared it to getting a full management trainee experience that you might get, but spread out in a much larger corporation. This holistic view of how an organization works.
Yeah.
She said it was just invaluable later.
That makes perfect sense. That kind of systems thinking and that understanding helped her make her next move.
Directly. After about a year and a half, she moved to C-Trip, the big online travel agency.
Ah, linking back to her personal interests.
Exactly. Driven by her genuine passion for the travel industry. She started in business development, BD, and now she's in marketing.
And she has plans beyond that.
Yeah. She mentioned exciting future plans to move into their overseas cruise business. That seems to be a real passion area for her now.
That's great, finding that niche.
So connecting the dots all the way back to that seemingly impractical history degree,
Yeah.
she explicitly says her ability to quickly grasp a company's structure, its product positioning, especially when she got to C-Trip. That came directly from the foundation she built at that small internet company.
Which, in turn, was helped by.
But the analytical mindset, that critical thinking she developed, studying history.
It all connects.
It really does.
Yeah.
Her point is clear. Understanding the underlying logic of how a business operates is just so useful, no matter your specific job title. Even if you start in a huge company where you only see a small piece.
That ability to see the whole system is powerful.
Absolutely. And this whole journey leads to some really profound advice she'd give her younger self, looking back.
Okay, what would she change?
Thinking back to high school, she'd tell herself to gain much broader knowledge beyond just hitting the books.
Broader how?
Like new tech, internet trends, what's happening to different industries, social news, global affairs, that kind of thing.
So more awareness of the world outside the classroom.
Precisely. While her intense focus got her into Fudan, she reckons a broader perspective would have saved her time later, helped her avoid some detours in figuring out her career.
Interesting. Any regrets from university time?
Yeah, she mentioned her junior year. Her father actually encouraged her to think about studying abroad.
Okay. But she wasn't interested.
No, she lacked interest, mainly because she just hadn't done the research. She didn't know the differences between international and domestic grad programs, or even what studying abroad would really be like.
Just hadn't gathered the information.
Exactly. She feels if someone had guided her, or even just prompted her to explore those options more proactively, it could have saved her significant time, maybe it opened up different paths earlier.
It really hammers home that theme of proactive information gathering.
It absolutely does, and it leads right into the guiding principle she seems to live by now. It's a powerful takeaway for anyone feeling a bit lost.
What is it?
She says, even if you're confused, you still need to learn more information. The more information you understand, the more different directions you can try, and the results you get may be different.
That's really practical advice. Don't just stay confused. Actively seek out information.
Yes, and it applies everywhere, understanding industries, job roles, life choices. She really stresses that if you don't have external guidance, that self-directed digging for information is just key. It unlocks possibilities.
So wrapping this up, what does this whole journey mean for you, the listener, who's maybe trying to figure out your own path?
Well, we've explored this story that started with what many might label an impractical major, maybe even a safety net university choice.
Right, not the most deliberate start, maybe.
But through diligent learning, some surprising twists and turns, and that crucial strategic information gathering, she found her way to a fulfilling career in an industry she genuinely loves.
It's a great reminder that expertise isn't just about what specific subject you study, but maybe more importantly, how you learn to think critically, to analyze information.
Absolutely. Her story just powerfully underscores the huge impact of being proactive about learning, about understanding the why behind different paths and options.
So here's a thought maybe to leave you with as you navigate your own journey.
Yeah.
If, as our interviewee suggests, every major, every field really equips you with a unique analytical method, a specific way of thinking,
Right.
how can you consciously apply the methods you've already learned or maybe seek out and learn new ones to help you navigate the next big decision in your life, whether that's about your career or education or even personal growth? How can you leverage that way of thinking?